Okay. Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fortnite Mythbusters. In today's episode, we have a whole ton of insane myths that you guys suggested on the last episode. So just like always, if you do have a myth you would like me to test in the next or future episodes of the Fortnite Mythbusters, make sure to go down in the comments and drop a comment of that myth for a pretty good chance to be featured. Also, if you want to help us out on the road to 1.1 million subscribers, make sure to subscribe and turn on those post notifications to never miss another Fortnite Mythbusters episode. As well, if you could smash 17,997 likes on today's episode, that would be insane. But without further ado, let's get right on in to today's video. Kicking things off, jumping straight into the first myth. The first myth is, will Mystique be immune to the Stark robots if she uses the shapeshifter emote and shapeshifts into a Stark robot after killing one? So massive shout out to my friend Orba for actually letting me use his account because I don't have Mystique on my main. But basically the shapeshifter emote is a built-in emote with the Mystique skin, so whenever you kill a player or even in this case a Stark robot, you use this emote and she'll hold out a skull and you will basically get that skin that they are using. So in this case, you literally turn into a Stark robot, which is pretty cool. I first turned into a Stark robot, but another one was already targeted onto me, so I had to kill him. I then had to redo the emote, and I went to the other side of the jet that lands on the ground to a Stark robot that was not targeted on me at the very beginning, but as soon as I got close to him, he started shooting at me, but he missed literally every single shot till a good 30 seconds later when I literally got right into his face. But no, in this case, you unfortunately are not immune to the Stark robot. Going straight into the next myth. The next myth is, does the explosion from Iron Man's Unibeam or the Repulsor Gauntlets light the natural campfires that are located around the map? So I thought this was actually a pretty good myth because in the last episode, we actually used Dr. Doom's Mythicals, and surprisingly, those would actually light, the natural campfires that are around the map. With Iron Man having similar, mythical weapons, the Unibeam as well as the Repulsor Gauntlets, people were thinking the explosion might light the campfires as well. I first tried this out with the Repulsor Gauntlets. I shot literally the direct center of the campfire, the side of it. I got up close with it, and every single time I would shoot it, it was not lighting the campfire, and it looked like it was doing nothing at all. I then got the Unibeam, and I went directly straight up above the campfire. I shot it straight down, and this explosion, it does a lot of damage. It goes through builds and stuff, but it didn't even light the campfire whatsoever either, which I was actually pretty surprised. Overall, a pretty good myth and definitely something you might want to know. I would just use the campfire anyways. I wouldn't shoot it. Going into the next myth. The next myth is, when you kill a henchman and use Mystique's shapeshift emote, will you turn into a henchman? And if so, will you not be noticed by the other henchmen as well? So usually when you turn into a henchman, you will actually use a disguise booth, and you get the henchman suit on, and you could literally walk straight up to the henchman and they won't even notice you. So is this the exact same way? If you kill a henchman, use Mystique's shapeshift emote and go up to another henchman, will they notice you or will they not? When I tried this out, I basically killed a Doom henchman. I then used the emote right away, and I was actually surprised to see that I literally turned into the henchman. I honestly wasn't expecting that because this disguise booth's for a reason. I then ran all the way down to the vault, and no henchmen were in my way on the way down there, but as soon as I got down there, I literally did nothing, and they got suspicious of me and they started shooting, where I then had to shoot back. As soon as I hit them and did damage, I lost my disguise. Going into the next myth, and a highly requested myth. This myth is, what happens when you boogiebomb Iron Man? So with boogiebombs actually being located around the map, and they're a pretty common drop on the ground. You see them all over the place, and even a lot of people actually carry them in their inventory and they use them in fights. So with Iron Man being a pretty overpowered boss, basically one-tapping you almost when you have no shield, it might be good to throw one at him and get a few extra shots off if he does end up dancing from one. When trying this out in game, basically Iron Man destroyed the floor. I then threw a boogie bomb right at him where he did start dancing. He had the disco ball above his head, and he does the literal exact same dance as a regular player does, making this known that Iron Man behaves the exact same way as a regular player like us. The boogie bomb duration is the exact same amount of time as a regular player, so it's not any shorter, it's not any longer. But something that you do have to keep in mind is, say Iron Man is dancing from the boogie bomb and he gets any amount of damage dealt to him no matter what, even if it's just a pickaxe hit, the boogie bomb emote will automatically cancel out, therefore making him able to shoot you once again. Going into another myth, and one that was pretty similar to earlier on in today's episode. This myth is, what happens when Mystique kills a Doom henchman and shapeshifts? Will you be able to open up the scanner chests around the Doom location? This is actually a really really good myth because we already know you will get noticed by the henchmen when you shapeshift into one of these Doom henchmen. It doesn't behave the same way as a disguise booth, but if you were to go through a disguise booth, you could open up these scanner chests. When trying this out in game, I basically killed a Doom henchman. I then shapeshift into him. I didn't kill it through a disguise booth. Keep that in mind. I then went over to a house where there is actually one of these scanner chests. I then scanned myself. It took a pretty long time, like it usually does, and it says Doom henchman only, which I was pretty confused because I'm literally disguised as a Doom henchman. This would be a little bit overpowered. You could be able to open up these chests and they do get pretty good loot, but in this case you have to go through one of those disguise booths and make it over to the chest without taking any damage. Going into once again another Iron Man myth, so many of these today. This myth is, can you use Iron Man's Repulsor Gauntlets or the Unibeam to fish? Will it act like a grenade? Will you be able to actually get fish and weapons out of the the fishing school? So right off the bat, I used the Unibeam straight up from above and shot it directly into one of these fishing spots, but it literally did absolutely nothing. From there, I immediately used the Repulsor Gauntlets right after, and I actually got pretty good loot from the fishing spot. I got a blue AR, which is pretty rare, but every single fishing spot afterwards, it just gave me the same loot like a grenade would, a rusty can, and a couple of small fries. I'm actually pretty confused why that very first one actually gave me that blue AR. I don't know if it's extremely rare to get that because every single one afterwards still gave me small fries and rusty cans, ammo, all of that good stuff. So no, you can't really fish. Going into another pretty highly requested myth. This myth is, do Chug Splashes put out the campfires that are located around the map? So a couple of episodes ago, we actually found out that Chug Splashes will put out the fires that are made by the gas cans as well as the firefly jars, and it's pretty cool. I mean, I wasn't really expecting Fortnite to add those types of physics into Fortnite. The natural campfires around the map, when you light them, they last a good I'd say like 25 to 30 seconds. So when I lit this campfire, I threw a Chug Splash right onto it. It immediately went out. You could even hear the little like tss effect that gets made when a fire does get put out, and you didn't continue to heal, which is a bummer. I don't really know why anybody would do this. Maybe the only reason I could see it being possible is to not see the smoke in the air, just in case the team's rolling up on you or something, or if you want to mess with your teammates. It might be kind of funny, your team's at 1 HP and you want to mess with them, so they finally find the campfire, you throw a Chug Splash, and it immediately goes away. Going into another myth. This myth is, does Midas's golden touch affect Iron Man's mythical weapons? So I'm pretty sure 99.9% of you already know what Midas's golden touch is, but for those of you who do not know, Midas is a tier 100 skin that can be fully gold, and no matter what he touches, it will turn into solid gold. That goes for weapons, even if you drop them on the ground. That's might of why you've seen golden weapons on the ground and in your inventory. I first picked up Iron Man's Unibeam. I then had it in my inventory. I shot it, but there's no physical way to see if it's actually solid gold. So I then picked up the Repulsor Gauntlets, held them in my hand, and these are like gloves almost, but every single time I even picked them up to try and glitch to see if they were working, they were still that bright red color. There's no way Midas's golden touch works on these. Going into once again another Iron Man myth. This myth is, does Iron Man's Unibeam or the Repulsor Gauntlets destroy the supply drop balloons? Can you pop the balloons with them? So this is actually a pretty good myth because supply drops, they have a good amount of health, and the Unibeam does a lot of damage, and it could be a good way to pop the balloon immediately. So I found a supply drop, I went directly underneath it, and I used the Unibeam, but I seemed to hit the actual crate of the drop, and it did no damage whatsoever. From there, I used the Repulsor Gauntlets while it was pretty close to the ground, and every single one was doing about a good like 30 to 60 damage, the regular amount of damage that the Repulsor Gauntlets do. Once the drop was actually on the ground, I then used the Unibeam one more time where it immediately popped the balloon. It did over 100 damage, so you could safely say that this is a good technique to actually pop these supply drops. Going into another highly requested myth. This myth is, will an empty gas can still explode when it is shot? So firstly, to do this, I had to find a gas can, and they spawn all over the map at these gas stations, so that wasn't really an issue. From there, I started pouring out the gas all over the floor. After a couple seconds later, it immediately all went out. I was at 0, and you can see it literally says not enough ammo. My player is shaking his head. I then then dropped the can on the floor. I backed up and I shot it when it had literally zero fuel left in it, but it still had a massive explosion, the same explosion that you know, it usually does. Anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. Turn on those post notifications to never miss another Fortnite Mythbusters episode, and I will see you guys next time.